The first thing I did after being reborn was tear up the marriage report that my fiancé, Ryan Carter, had prepared to submit. In my previous life, I had clung to the idea of marrying Ryan Carter, only to discover, at the very end of my life, that he had secretly been involved with Emily Snow for 40 years. This time, knowing the truth, I wouldn't be so foolish. I wouldn't step aside voluntarily to let Ryan Carter and the woman he had always loved, Emily Snow, get their way. If Ryan Carter wanted to take care of Emily Snow, I wouldn't oppose it. If he wanted to give half of his salary to her, I wouldn't stop him either. But I never expected Emily Snow to be so greedy. She even set her sights on my college acceptance letter. What a ridiculous idea. I firmly refused her unreasonable demand. The day after I rejected Emily Snow's outrageous request and tore apart my relationship with Ryan Carter, the two of them were caught in bed together. In my previous life, I had no idea that Ryan Carter wasn't satisfied with me as his fiancé. I naively believed that, since our marriage had been arranged from childhood, I was fortunate to marry him. Ryan Carter was always busy with work, and his parents were in poor health. To let him focus on his career, I gave up my chance to go to college and spent my life taking care of his parents and raising our children. We were married for 40 years, but we spent more time apart than together. In total, we were only together for less than 2 years. As a woman, I had to take care of his ailing parents and our young children. Life was unimaginably hard. I always hoped Ryan Carter would transfer back to my city to support me, but he never did. Not even until the day I died. I had always thought he had no choice, but on my deathbed, I learned the truth. It wasn't that he had no choice. He simply didn't like me. He didn't want to see me. He wanted to stay far away from me, so he could take care of the woman he truly loved, Emily Snow. He secretly arranged a job for her, and they were affectionate and devoted to each other. He went south or north for work, always because of her. His heart was always with Emily Snow. Until the day I died, I had been nothing but a fool, played and mocked by them, becoming a complete joke. I took out my college acceptance letter from the box and held it tightly against my chest. Tears of joy streamed uncontrollably down my face. Felt amazing. Everything was still in time. In my previous life, because of my deep love for Ryan Carter, I wanted nothing more than to marry him and become his wife. I gave up college and worked tirelessly at home, taking care of his parents and sacrificing for him. But in this life, I wouldn't repeat such stupidity. I would go to college and build a career for myself. As for Ryan Carter, didn't he love Emily Snow? This time, I would step away and let him have his tragic love story with her. I composed myself and walked out of my room, seeing Ryan Carter sitting in a chair in the living room. On the table in front of him lay the marriage report he had prepared but hadn't yet submitted. Ryan Carter looked at the marriage report coldly, his brows furrowed. When I walked out, he didn't even glance at me. In my previous life, Ryan Carter had always been indifferent to me. I hadn't realized it was because he didn't like me. I thought he was just naturally distant. It wasn't until I saw the photos of him and Emily Snow smiling together that I understood. Ryan Carter wasn't averse to smiling. He just didn't want to smile at me. Ryan Carter stared at the marriage report, clearly reluctant to submit it. The wedding date had been set by our families. Although Ryan Carter didn't like me, he was a filial son and wouldn't defy his parents. For me, marrying Ryan Carter was reaching above my station. My parents desperately wanted me to marry a soldier like him to elevate their status. This wasn't the time to bring up breaking off the engagement. To prevent Ryan Carter from submitting the marriage report and locking in our relationship like in my previous life, I walked over, picked up the report, and said, "I'll submit it for you." Before he could respond, I grabbed the report and left. I found a secluded spot, tore the marriage report into pieces, and threw them into a nearby drainage ditch, watching the fragments get carried away by the dirty water, leaving no trace behind. I exhaled in relief. For now, I didn't have to worry about marriage. What I needed to focus on was preparing for college. In my previous life, my parents had insisted I marry Ryan Carter as soon as possible. When they found out I had been accepted to college, they persuaded me not to go, emphasizing the benefits of marrying Ryan Carter. Back then, blinded by my love for him, I quickly gave in and spent my entire life sacrificing for him. But not this time. In this life, I wouldn't follow my parents' advice or repeat the mistakes of my past. I carefully gathered information about the materials needed for college applications and the estimated cost of living before returning to Ryan Carter's home. As I approached the yard, I noticed a car parked outside. From the car, a young woman stepped out, carrying several bags, accompanied by Ryan Carter. It was just like the previous life. Nothing had changed. Emily Snow had been openly brought to live here under Ryan Carter's care. The reason Ryan Carter gave for bringing Emily Snow into his life was that her brother had sacrificed his life to save him. I had always believed that Ryan owed her a debt of gratitude. Because of that belief, I had accepted his care for Emily Snow as a matter of course. Had Emily not revealed the true nature of their relationship herself, I might have remained in the dark until my death. I silently watched as Ryan Carter helped Emily Snow carry her luggage into the room he had prepared for her. Perhaps sensing my gaze, Ryan stopped in his tracks and turned to look at me. "You're back," he said. I replied with a quiet yes. Just like in my previous life, he introduced Emily Snow to me. "This is Emily Snow, my comrade's younger sister. She'll be staying here before heading to college." Before heading to college? My heart sank for a moment as a sudden realization struck me. Emily Snow was going to the same university listed on my acceptance letter. A university. In my previous life, I hadn't thought much about the connection between Emily Snow and Ryan Carter. After Ryan brought Emily to live here, she left for a university shortly after we got married. But today, when I was gathering information about college, I carefully reviewed the list of accepted students at a university. There were only 3 spots allocated for the program. One was mine, and the other 2 belonged to male students I didn't recognize. Emily Snow wasn't on the admissions list. If that's the case, how did she qualify to attend? At that time, the college entrance examination system had only recently been reinstated, and university spots were highly limited and could be substituted under certain circumstances. A chilling thought occurred to me. Could it be that my withdrawal from college, after marrying Ryan Carter, allowed Emily Snow to take my place? If that were true, what role did Ryan Carter play in this? Did he marry me solely to ensure that Emily Snow could attend college? Did he deliberately keep me at home, working tirelessly, so his beloved could have opportunities she wouldn't otherwise have had? The thought of Ryan Carter being so despicable and deceitful made my chest tighten. I couldn't help but recall the scene from my previous life. Just before my death, Emily Snow had stood proudly by my sickbed and sneered, "You've monopolized Ryan Carter for over 40 years. Now it's my turn to enjoy my golden years with him." Emily had been a mistress for decades without a shred of shame. Instead, she wore her infamy as a badge of honor. Watching her now, standing so close to Ryan Carter without a hint of hesitation or guilt, I smirked inwardly. "You two seem busy," I said coldly. "I'll go make dinner." I turned and walked away without waiting for a response. Behind me, Emily's soft, syrupy voice floated through the air. "Ryan, am I interrupting you and your wife by suddenly coming over? I feel like she doesn't welcome me very much." The cloying tone made my stomach churn. My lips curled into a faint, mocking smile as disgust surged within me. I didn't look back. Ryan Carter's voice followed, steady and reassuring. "Don't worry. I promised your brother I'd take care of you. And I will. As long as I'm here, no one will mistreat you." How quickly he rushed to defend her. In my previous life, I really had been blind. Ryan Carter and Emily Snow returned 2 hours later. By then, I had already prepared dinner. Emily made a show of coming into the kitchen to help carry dishes, even offering to serve rice. But she only served 2 bowls, one for Ryan Carter and one for herself. Her actions were blatantly obvious, her intentions as clear as daylight. I pretended not to notice her petty scheming and casually served myself before sitting down to eat. Ryan Carter and Emily joined me at the table. As they Saturday, both of them froze, staring at the dishes on the table. 4 dishes were laid out: spicy tofu, spicy potatoes. The other dish was spicy pork ribs. And the only soup on the table was green bean soup, topped with bright red chili flakes. Both Ryan Carter and Emily Snow preferred mild food. Seeing the dishes, all spicy and flavorful, they were visibly taken aback. Ryan's eyes turned toward me, but I ignored him and continued eating, focusing entirely on my own meal. In my previous life, I had catered to Ryan Carter's preferences, cooking light and bland dishes to suit his taste. But now, having been reborn, I wasn't going to compromise myself for anyone else. As I happily enjoyed my spicy and aromatic meal, completely unbothered by Ryan or Emily, Ryan's expression grew darker, and Emily's eyes welled up with tears. She looked pitifully at Ryan, her red-rimmed eyes full of grievance. Eventually, Ryan couldn't hold back anymore. He stood up and said, "Emily can't eat spicy food. Don't put chili in the dishes next time. I'll take her out for dinner tonight." I continued eating, not even sparing them a glance. The two people I disliked most left together, and I enjoyed the rest of my meal, eating until I was stuffed. Afterward, I cleaned up the table and dishes before stepping outside for a walk. When I returned, Ryan and Emily were still not back. I went to my room, closed the door, and opened my storage box. Inside were ration tickets and cash we had prepared for the wedding. This small saving stash was supposed to be for our future together, a combination of the dowry my parents had scraped together and the bride price Ryan's family had provided. But now, with college ahead of me, I would need money for travel expenses, food, and living costs. I had no intention of giving this money to Ryan. In my previous life, I handed over all this money after we got married, and it ended up funding Emily Snow's education. This time, I wouldn't be so foolish. The cash, ration tickets, and my acceptance letter were all safely stored away. I also took out all the items meant for the wedding: red sheets, pillowcases, and quilt covers, which now had no purpose. Since there would be no wedding, these items needed to go. Mrs. White, a kind woman from the compound, had always been good to me. Her daughter was getting married this month, so I decided to give the items to her. When I brought the bedding over, Mrs. White was surprised and asked me a few questions. I gave her vague answers and brushed off her concerns. After returning home, Ryan still wasn't back. I washed up and went to my room, marking a red X on the calendar hanging on the wall. It felt so good. Only 20 days left before I could leave for college. That night, I slept soundly, completely undisturbed. I didn't know when Ryan came back. In the morning, I cooked a bowl of noodles for myself. As I ate, Ryan finally opened the door to his room. He paused when he saw me sitting there, eating alone. I didn't look up at him even once. Surprise flickered across his face, but I wasn't surprised by his reaction. In my previous life, I had been hopelessly in love with him, doing everything for him, making sure his needs were met. He didn't like spicy food, so I had never cooked anything remotely spicy. I even carefully avoided certain ingredients because of his weak stomach. But now, Ryan's face softened as if he wanted to say something, but I didn't give him the chance. I quietly finished my noodles, rinsed the bowl, and went back to my room without a word. For the first time, Ryan Carter wasn't the center of my world, and I planned to keep it that way. Every morning, I used to get up early to make millet porridge for him, taking care of his stomach. When he went to work, I would walk him to the compound gate. In the evenings, I would wait at the gate to welcome him home. To me, Ryan Carter was like a high and mighty emperor, while I was nothing more than a servant catering to his every need. Now, this servant had changed and no longer put the emperor first. No wonder Ryan seemed unsettled by it. When Ryan noticed that I wasn't paying him any attention, he had no choice but to walk over to me. "Emily isn't familiar with the area," he explained. "Last night, I took her out for dinner and showed her around before coming back." Was Ryan Carter explaining himself to me? That was as rare as the sun rising in the west. I continued eating my noodles and mumbled indifferently, "That's understandable. Taking care of her is your responsibility. You don't need to tell me about it." Ryan paused, seemingly taken aback by my response. Perhaps he found it hard to believe, considering how deeply I had loved him before. Ryan Carter was undeniably attractive, and many women admired him. In the past, I had kept a close watch on him, feeling uneasy whenever another woman so much as spoke to him. Now, I didn't care about him or Emily Snow, which must have seemed strange to him. He stared at me, scrutinizing me for a long moment before continuing. "Emily's brother died because of me. From now on, she's like a sister to me, and I'll take care of her. I'll also give her half of my salary and ration tickets every month. In my previous life, after Ryan and I got married, I stayed home to care for his ailing parents. Ryan earned $40 a month but only gave me $10 to manage the household. I worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk, doing side jobs to make ends meet. Meanwhile, he gave half of his salary to Emily Snow. How touching. Indeed, such deep affection. He didn't care about his parents, wife, or children. The only person in his heart was Emily Snow. The thought of it made my teeth grind with anger. I wanted nothing more than to slap that handsome face of his. But I held myself back and replied calmly, "Take care of her as you wish. I don't have an opinion on it." He could give Emily all of his salary and ration tickets for all I cared. What did it have to do with me? I wasn't going to marry him, nor would I waste my life taking care of his family. I was curious to see how he would manage to feed his sick parents and pay for their medicine once he had given everything to Emily. I finished my noodles in a few bites, cleaned up, and returned to my room. Yesterday, I had only given away the bedding and wedding decorations. Today, I planned to clear out the rest of the room. The old study materials from my high school exams were useless now, so I decided to sell them. I also gathered the items I had prepared for Ryan Carter, such as the handmade shoes, and either sold or threw them away. The large red wedding decorations were cut into pieces and thrown out as well. After finishing everything, I marked another day off the calendar. Only 19 days left until I started college. It was time to prepare for school. I headed to the supply store to buy some necessities, only to run into Ryan Carter and Emily Snow. The two of them looked like a loving couple as they browsed through the items. Ryan was meticulous, even helping Emily pick out thermal underwear. Emily smiled sweetly and said, "That's enough. Ryan, you've already bought so much. I checked the weather where your school is. It gets cold. It's better to have a few extra sets just in case." Ryan replied warmly. Their affectionate conversation continued as if no one else was around. Then Emily noticed me first. She raised her chin and said smugly, "Oh, Selena, you're here shopping too." Hearing Emily's voice, Ryan finally turned and noticed me. I glanced at them with a faint, mocking smile, making Ryan Carter visibly uncomfortable. "Emily is about to start college," he said, attempting to explain. "I came with her to buy a few things." As he spoke, his eyes fell on the paper, ink, and stationery in my hands. "I already bought those for Emily. You don't need to get more." Where did he get the audacity to think I'd buy anything for Emily Snow? Without responding to Ryan, I held on to my purchases, turned around, and walked away. Ryan followed behind, calling my name twice. I didn't look back, only quickened my pace. Behind me, Emily's sugary voice drifted over. "Ryan, I think Selena really doesn't like me." I ignored them, finished buying a few other items, and returned home. When I opened the door, I was surprised to find that Ryan Carter had already prepared dinner. It was a rare moment, like the sun rising in the west. Seeing me, Ryan called out, "Dinner's ready." I glanced at the table, noting the light, bland dishes, and shook my head. "I've already eaten outside." Ryan's expression froze momentarily, but I didn't care. I went straight to my room. A few minutes later, Ryan knocked on my door. I opened it, and he said, "We need to talk." "What about?" I asked coolly. "Selena, are you upset about Emily?" "I'm only taking care of her because of her brother," he explained. "That's your business. It has nothing to do with me. You don't need to explain it over and over." Noticing the impatience on my face, Ryan softened his tone. "Selena, we're about to get married. We're family. My responsibilities are your responsibilities too." Did he still think I was the same pushover as before? His false sincerity only deepened my irritation. I looked at him coldly. "Ryan, have you ever thought about what's going on between us? I think we need to reconsider this whole marriage arrangement." I had intended to end the conversation right there. But before I could finish, there was a knock at the door. Emily's teary voice called out from outside, "Ryan." I twisted my ankle. It hurt so much. Ryan immediately went to support Emily, helping her away, and didn't return that night. Naturally, I didn't wait for him. I washed up, locked my door, and went to bed, sleeping peacefully through the night. The next morning, the first thing I did was mark another day off the calendar. feeling refreshed. I washed up and stepped out of my room to find Ryan had returned. He had brought breakfast, steamed buns, soy milk, and fried dough sticks. For once, he smiled as he saw me. "You're up." "Yes," I replied curtly. He handed me the breakfast. "Here, this is for you." I took it without a word and began eating. Ryan sat down beside me. "Last night, after Emily twisted her ankle, she also came down with a fever. I stayed with her at the hospital all night," he said. "That's only natural," I replied indifferently. In my past life, I always greeted him with a smile. I had never been this cold to him before. Ryan seemed unprepared for my response. "Selena, are you mad at me?" he asked. "No, I'm not mad," I said flatly. "Why would I be? In any case, in a little over 10 days, we'll each go our separate ways." Hearing me deny being upset, Ryan's smile grew wider. "Yesterday, I noticed you bought paper and ink. Was it for Emily? How about you come with me to give it to her later?" I looked at him steadily and enunciated each word clearly. "Ryan, Emily already has your care and attention. She doesn't need anything from me. What I bought is for my own use and has nothing to do with her." His expression darkened, clearly displeased, but I ignored him. I stood up and said, "I have some errands to run." I went to the train station to inquire about tickets. The university I was headed to, a university, was known for being cold. I bought myself 2 sets of thermal underwear and some toiletries before heading back home. To my surprise, Ryan Carter was actually at home. When he saw me carrying my bags inside, he even reached out to help. I avoided his hand and carried the bags into my room myself. He followed me inside and looked around. "It seems like your room is missing a lot of things." "I threw away what I don't need," I replied coldly. Seeing my indifferent attitude, he fell silent for a moment before saying, "The wedding is in a few days. Tomorrow, I'll go shopping with you to get the rest of what we need." This was truly shocking. Ryan Carter volunteering to go shopping? I rejected him outright. No need. My coldness was absolute. Not a hint of warmth remained. Ryan rubbed his hands awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with the atmosphere. After a long pause, he finally said, "There's one more thing I need to discuss with you. It's about college." I stopped sorting through my things and looked up at him silently. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Here's what I'm thinking. After we get married, you probably won't have time to go to college. Since you won't be able to attend, why not give up your spot and let someone else use it?" Hearing his words, my mind went blank for a moment. Previously, I had only suspected that Emily Snow got into college because I gave up my spot. Now, with Ryan saying this, I was almost certain. These 2 shameless people, they had truly crossed the line. Anger surged through me, and I stood up abruptly, glaring at Ryan with hatred. I asked him, word by word, "Who do you want me to give it to?" Ryan seemed startled by my reaction. "What's wrong with you? I'm just trying to discuss it with you." "Discuss?" I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. In my previous life, I had given him my all, treating him like a god. He hadn't even bothered to discuss this matter with me back then. He just made the decision on his own. Now, with no emotional leverage left, he had no choice but to ask me directly, "Ryan Carter, don't you think you're unbelievably shameless?" I said coldly. I enunciated every word clearly. "I will not give up my college spot. If someone wants to go to college, they can earn their place fair and square. There's no way they'll take a shortcut through me." Ryan hadn't expected me to react so strongly. He stammered, "I was just thinking, since we're getting married, you wouldn't have time to go to college. Then we won't get married." I snapped, cutting him off with a harsh, angry shout. Ryan's face turned ashen. He glared at me. "Don't go too far. You're the one who wanted to get married. Now you're the one saying we won't. What do you take me for? What do you take marriage for?" I let out a cold laugh. "Stop pretending. If you had even a shred of decency, would you have treated me the way you did in my previous life?" Now wasn't the right time to completely break things off, so I swallowed my fury. With quick, efficient movements, I packed my bag. "I'm going home for a few days," I said. Ryan followed me a few steps. "Why the sudden decision to go home? Missing your parents?" "Yes. I replied curtly, brushing him off before heading downstairs and leaving without looking back. I decided to stay at my parents' house for a while and only return when it was time for college to start. My parents were delighted to see me back, especially my mother, who bombarded me with questions about my relationship with Ryan. I answered vaguely, dodging most of her inquiries. Knowing that I didn't plan to marry Ryan, I decided to subtly prepare my mom for the news. On the 7th day of my stay, I casually brought up Emily Snow. My mom immediately became alert. A single woman living under his care? That's not right. You should go back and keep an eye on things. Ryan is a real catch. If someone steals him, what will you do? I just break up and find someone else. I said lightly. Don't say such nonsense. My mom snapped, giving me a sharp look. Where else can you find someone like Ryan Carter? Handsome and with a good job, my mom said, treating Ryan as though he were some rare treasure. She wouldn't let me stay home any longer and pushed me to return. And just like that, I was kicked out by my mom, with nowhere else to go. I had no choice but to return to Ryan Carter's place. As I opened the door, I heard noises coming from my room. Startled, I froze for a moment. Broad daylight. Was someone breaking in? Taking quick steps, I rushed to my bedroom door. What I saw inside made me suck in a sharp breath. My room was a complete mess. Everything had been turned upside down. Emily Snow hadn't noticed my presence and continued rifling through my drawers and boxes, even pulling apart the bedding. She muttered under her breath, "How can it not be here? Where is it?" I immediately shouted, "What are you doing? Who gave you permission to touch my things?" Startled by my voice, Emily turned around, but to my surprise, she quickly composed herself. "Do you even need to ask? Of course. Ryan asked me to come," she said smugly. While I was gone, Ryan had actually let Emily stay here. These shameless people had no sense of propriety. My eyes burned with anger as I glared at her. "Emily Snow, do you have no shame? Get out of my room right now." Emily didn't look the least bit fazed. She put on an air of defiance and said mockingly, "Why are you so mad? Fine. I'll be honest with you. While you were away, Ryan and I stayed here together. He treated me so well. He made me breakfast every morning, cooked dinner every night, and even went on walks with me. Ryan truly knows how to take care of people." Suppressing the fury rising in my chest, I let out a cold laugh. "So, you're saying you like Ryan Carter and want to marry him?" Caught off guard by my blunt question, Emily's expression froze for a moment. I continued coldly, "You do know he's about to get married, right? Aren't you ashamed to be living with a man who's engaged? Aren't you worried about what people might say?" "Why should I care? Ryan and I are a perfect match, talented and beautiful, made for each other. You, on the other hand, should take a good look in the mirror. Do you really think you deserve Ryan Carter? This so-called childhood engagement of yours is just outdated nonsense. Ryan told me himself that if it weren't for your parents forcing him, he'd never marry you." I had no doubt Ryan truly thought that way, but that didn't give Emily the right to throw it in my face. "All of this," I said, my voice icy, "is just because you're jealous and bitter that I'm marrying Ryan Carter. You claim I'm not good enough for him? Fine. I admit it. I'm not. But are you so sure that you're his perfect match? Why don't you take a good look in the mirror yourself? You're just like me. No job. No education. Neither of us is better than the other." "That's just your opinion," she retorted. "I'll be starting college soon. Once I graduate, Ryan and I will be on the same level. But you? You'll still be nothing." I stared at her coldly. "You're going to college. Are you? Which one? Where's your acceptance letter? Why don't you show it to me?" Emily faltered, clearly thrown off by my question. Her voice wavered as she stammered, "Why should I show it to you? Anyway, I'm not like you. I'll definitely go to college. Just wait and see." Although she tried to act composed, the panic in her eyes betrayed her. She was clearly hiding something. She was definitely up to no good. What could possibly be in my room that made Emily Snow take such a risk? Looking at my room, which had been turned completely upside down, and then at Emily's vile face, I felt an overwhelming sense of disgust. How could someone be so shameless? I stared coldly at Emily Snow. "Get out. Leave my room right now." "And what if I don't? What can you do about it?" she challenged, her expression defiant. Ryan told me to move in here. He said he'd personally take care of me. He also told me he's sick of you, that you make him nauseous just by being around. Her words overlapped with the cruel things the older Emily had said to me in my previous life. Shameless people never change, no matter how many lifetimes pass. I let out a mocking laugh. Ryan said that to you? Truly, you two are soulmates. Of course, Emily said smugly. Ryan doesn't like you at all. He only agreed to marry you because he was forced to. If you had any decency, you'd step aside and stop making things difficult for him. And what right do you have to tell me to step aside? What status are you using to make that demand? I shot back, my voice sharp and cutting. If we're talking about shamelessness, you'd undoubtedly win first place. At least I'm still Ryan's legitimate fiancé. And you? What are you? I looked her straight in the eye, enunciating every word. Emily Snow, I know exactly what you're up to. You're trying to take advantage of my absence to get involved with Ryan. It's written all over your face. Plain as day. You're desperate to seduce him. And you don't even care who notices. Emily's face turned bright red with anger at my accusation. She charged toward me, hand raised as if to hit me. But there was no way I'd let her succeed. I sidestepped her. And she stumbled, falling flat on the floor with a loud thud. Before I could even take a moment to savor her embarrassment, she burst into tears, crying dramatically. You're bullying me. It hurts so much. I'm in so much pain, she wailed, changing her expression in an instant. I stood there in disbelief at her performance. Before I could react, Ryan Carter appeared, his face dark and stormy. Emily clutched at him, sobbing as she tattled. The moment she came back, she started yelling at me for no reason, accusing me of being indecent and trying to seduce you. When I tried to explain myself, she hit me. Look, I'm covered in bruises. Ryan's forehead creased, his veins visible as he glared at me and yelled, Selena, how could you be so cruel? Without waiting for my explanation, he picked up Emily, cradling her as though she were a delicate treasure, and left the room. As the door closed, silence returned. I looked at the mess in my room, my feelings a jumble of anger and frustration. I had always believed that I gave up my spot at college when I married Ryan, and that was how Emily got to attend. But if that were the case, why was Emily rummaging through my room so desperately? There wasn't anything valuable in my room aside from my college acceptance letter, cash, and ration tickets. Emily didn't need money. Half of Ryan's salary already went to her. She wouldn't stoop to stealing. So, was she looking for my acceptance letter? And if so, why? A chilling thought crossed my mind. Could it be that Emily didn't attend college because I gave up my spot, but because she impersonated me? Suddenly, everything clicked. In my previous life, my acceptance letter had mysteriously disappeared. At the time, I dismissed it because I'd already decided not to go to college. I never thought much of it. But now, it all made sense. Emily had likely taken my acceptance letter and used my identity to get into college. Looking back now, I couldn't help but wonder, had Emily Snow taken my college acceptance letter and used my name to attend college in my place? In my previous life, college admission processes weren't as strict as they are now. It wasn't impossible for someone like Emily to impersonate me. I also recalled how, wherever Emily worked, Ryan Carter would follow. Could it be that in my previous life, the two of them had been living together as husband and wife while I was trapped at home, unaware of the truth until the very end? This time, I wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Ryan came back late that night. As soon as he returned, he knocked on my door. Selena, can we talk? I opened the door, crossing my arms. Talk about what? Emily Snow, I asked, my tone sharp. Let me make this clear. I didn't hit her. She was rummaging through my things, and I told her to leave. She tried to hit me first but ended up tripping and falling on her own. I wasn't going to stay silent and let Emily frame me or allow Ryan to accuse me unjustly. I laid out the truth before he could say anything further. Whether he believed me or not was up to him. To my surprise, Ryan didn't come to Emily's defense. There's nothing between me and Emily, he sighed, reaching out to take my hand. I stepped back, avoiding his touch. His expression showed a flicker of shock. After all, I used to cling to him shamelessly. Back then, even if he didn't extend his hand, I'd eagerly reach for his. Now, my clear rejection left him stunned and silent. He looked hurt. Selena, there's really nothing between Emily and me. I just see her as a sister. Please don't overthink it. I let out a cold laugh, meeting his gaze. Is that so? If I hadn't lived through everything in my past life, I might have believed him. But now, not a single word he said carried any weight. Selena, he continued, whether you believe me or not, I need to tell you this. I only want to marry you. I feel a responsibility to take care of Emily because of her brother. But that's all. She won't stay here long. She'll be leaving for college soon. Can you please just get along with her for my sake? His words didn't answer the question swirling in my mind. Had Emily gotten into college by taking my spot? Or had she used my acceptance letter to claim my identity? And most importantly, did Ryan know about it? Could he have been the one to orchestrate everything? After all, even if Emily had my acceptance letter, she would have needed proof of identity to enroll. Emily didn't have the means to pull that off alone. But with Ryan's help, it would have been a different story. I narrowed my eyes and asked casually, what college is Emily going to? She said it's a university, he replied. Just as I thought. The same school as me. I added, have you seen her acceptance letter? No, I haven't, he admitted. But Emily's grades are excellent. Getting into a university seems perfectly normal for her. Ryan's expression was calm, showing no signs of guilt or deceit. But then again, in my previous life, he had lied to me with the same composed demeanor. I needed to get to the bottom of Emily's college situation. If she had truly been admitted on her own merits, I could accept it. But if she had taken my spot or used my identity, I wouldn't let it slide. The next day, I decided to find someone who knew Emily's family and uncover the truth. There were plenty of people from her hometown living in this area. I'd have my answers soon enough. The following morning, I was awakened by a knock at the door. When I opened it, Ryan was standing there. Breakfast is ready. Come and eat, he said. I nodded lightly and walked away to wash up, keeping my attitude distant. Ryan Carter followed me, trying to make conversation. What's with the check marks on the calendar in your room? Nothing, I replied curtly, seeing how cold I was. Ryan stayed silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on me. I pretended not to notice and sat down to eat breakfast. Ryan followed suit, sitting across from me, and started eating. The way he kept glancing at me made it obvious he wanted to say something, but I had no interest in talking to him. I finished my breakfast quickly and got up. I have some errands to run, I said. I'll go with you, Ryan offered unexpectedly. I didn't give him the chance. Why don't you check on Emily Snow instead? Make sure she's eaten breakfast and see if she needs your help. After all, you promised her brother you'd take care of her. If something happens to her, you'd have to answer for it. Without waiting to see Ryan's reaction, I turned and left. I went to find someone from Emily's hometown who could tell me about her background. There were many military families who knew her family well. I managed to find someone, a military spouse who was close with Mrs. White. When I asked about Emily's family, she immediately shared what she knew. Oh, the Snow family? Their son was a truly outstanding person, and everyone admired him. But as for Mrs. Snow and Emily, well, they're another story entirely, she said, lowering her voice. It turned out that both Emily and her mother were infamous for their poor character. Emily didn't even finish middle school, the woman continued. She dropped out and ran around with questionable people. College? That's a joke. How could she have gotten into college? Are you sure about this? I pressed, my heart racing. Of course, she replied confidently. My youngest son was in the same class as her. Emily's grades were terrible, and she dropped out before finishing middle school. Besides, during the college entrance exams, she was recovering from a bike accident and stayed home the whole time. How could she have taken the exam? Everyone here knows about it. Several of us military families can vouch for that. It was impossible for Emily Snow, who hadn't even graduated middle school, to have qualified for college. If she never took the exam, then how did she get into college? I already knew the answer. Feeling unsettled, I returned home. When I walked in, I found both Ryan and Emily there. Emily's eyes were red, as if she had been crying. I said nothing, passing by them silently and heading straight to my room. A few minutes later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Ryan was standing there. "Did you submit the marriage report?" he asked. I hadn't expected him to bring that up and instinctively replied, "Of course I did." Ryan studied me closely. "If you submitted it so long ago, why haven't we heard anything? We should have gotten approval by now." My heart skipped a beat, but I quickly responded, "I'll go check on it." Ryan didn't seem convinced. "Let's go together," he said. "And while we're out, we can pick up some wedding supplies." I couldn't think of a way to refuse. If we really went to check on the report, the truth would come out. I needed to come up with a way to deflect. As I was racking my brain, Ryan said, "I just talked to Emily. I'm planning to send her back to her hometown in a few days." I looked up at him, surprised. "Why?" Ryan hesitated before answering. "After thinking it over, I can understand why you'd be upset. Taking care of an unmarried woman like Emily isn't exactly appropriate." For a moment, I thought he was finally realizing his mistakes, but then his next words hit me like a bucket of ice water. "Selena, there's something I need to tell you," he began. "Emily wants to go to college. She didn't get in on her own, but she's hoping to use your spot." I stared silently at Ryan Carter. He seemed to have already prepared his explanation. "We're about to get married," he said. "You don't need to go to college. Besides, I owe Emily's brother a debt. This would be a good way to repay it, and it would also avoid misunderstandings." I clenched my fists, holding back the urge to slap him. "Repay it? I've heard her grades were terrible. She doesn't even qualify for college." Ryan paused briefly before replying. "Emily's suggestion is to use your name to go to college." Even though I had guessed their intentions, hearing Ryan say it outright still left me in disbelief. "Use my name to go to college?" I asked, enunciating each word. "Impersonate me? That's illegal. Don't you know that?" Ryan hesitated, then said, "If you don't say anything and Emily doesn't say anything, who would ever find out? And if someone does find out?" I snapped, "There's no such thing as a secret that never gets out. Besides, you're a soldier. If you're caught falsifying records, what will people think of you? Do you even plan to keep your career?" Ryan fell silent, clearly weighing his options. I thought for a moment he'd reconsider, but I had underestimated his devotion to Emily. Love, it seemed, had made him reckless. After a few minutes of silence, he said, "Selena, if the three of us swear to keep this secret, nothing will happen." I couldn't believe how far Ryan was willing to go for Emily. "I don't agree to this," I said firmly, my voice rising. "I will never agree. This debt of yours has nothing to do with me. I'm not giving my spot to Emily Snow. Not to her. Not to anyone." Our conversation ended bitterly, and I was seething with anger. In my previous life, they had secretly schemed behind my back, and I remained oblivious until my death. But now, with me on guard, they had the audacity to come to me directly, hoping I would willingly sacrifice for them again. What a joke. I couldn't stand being in the same house as Ryan Carter for another minute. No matter what, I needed to end things with him. I wouldn't marry him. Let him and Emily tangle themselves up however they pleased. I wanted no part of it. I packed my things, ready to leave. That's when Emily Snow walked in. "Selena," she said haughtily, "Ryan asked me to come get your college acceptance letter." I scoffed. "And why should I give it to you?" Her tone grew even more condescending. "Didn't Ryan tell you? He doesn't even like you. He's being forced to marry you. If you don't hand over the acceptance letter, don't expect this marriage to happen." I laughed coldly. Who said I wanted to marry Ryan Carter? Someone as spineless and worthless as him? Whoever wants him can have him. I certainly don't. I stared her down, speaking slowly and deliberately. "You can take the man, but don't even dream of taking my college acceptance letter. There's no way I'm giving it to someone as despicable and shameless as you." Emily's face twisted with rage. She pointed a finger at me, ready to start yelling. But just as quickly, her expression changed. "Selena, please," she said, switching to a syrupy tone. "There's really nothing between me and Ryan. You can't just accuse us like that." I don't care what's between you two. I said coldly. You're both disgusting. Shameless trash. And you deserve each other. Just don't come around ruining other people's lives. I had barely finished speaking when Ryan stormed in, his face filled with anger. Selena, what the hell are you doing? He shouted, his voice trembling with rage. Why haven't you submitted the marriage report? I hadn't expected him to actually go check on the marriage report. At this point, there was nothing left to say. Why didn't I submit the marriage report? Don't you already know? Ryan, I said coldly. You want me to marry you while giving up my college spot to Emily Snow? How do you have the nerve to ask for that? Do you think you're such a prize that I'd sacrifice my education for you? I continued, my voice sharp and unyielding. Let me make this clear. Ryan Carter, I will not marry you. And neither you nor Emily should dream of getting my college acceptance letter. Even if I die, I won't hand it over. I thought Ryan would explode in anger, but he remained surprisingly calm. Instead, it was Emily who started crying pitifully. Ryan, you promised to take care of me. You made that promise to my brother. She sobbed, clinging to him. I glared at the two of them with icy disdain. Whatever the two of you want to do is none of my concern. I'm leaving now. Ryan, consider our engagement cancelled. Ryan panicked and tried to block my way. Selena, it's not what you think. Please listen to me. In front of Emily, Ryan insisted firmly. I'm only taking care of Emily because I promised her brother. There's nothing between us. The person I want to marry is you. I laughed bitterly. Didn't you just say I should give her my acceptance letter so she can impersonate me? And now you're trying to act innocent. I didn't believe a single word he said. I stared at him, my tone resolute. Ryan, I don't care what you plan to do with Emily. I just want to end this engagement. That's it. Ryan visibly panicked, his composure slipping. He ordered Emily to leave, clearly intending to pacify me. But I had made up my mind. I packed my belongings and left, ignoring his attempts to stop me. I checked into a small motel, intending to stay there for a while. Ryan followed me there, trying to talk, but I refused to open the door. From the other side, he pleaded, saying he'd made a mistake and begging me to forgive him. I remained unmoved, no matter what he said. Finally, Ryan promised he would send Emily away, but I couldn't care less about his assurances. My decision was final. No matter the cost, I would break off this engagement. I didn't expect what happened the next morning. I was woken up by loud knocking on my door. It was Mrs. White, looking frantic. Selena, something big has happened. There's been a huge scandal, she exclaimed. Apparently, Ryan Carter and Emily Snow had been caught in bed together. Both of them were completely undressed when a military officer knocked on their door and discovered them. This kind of scandal was no small matter, and word quickly spread throughout the compound. The story was that Ryan had somehow forced himself on Emily, and they were caught in the act. When I arrived, I saw Emily sitting there, crying with red, swollen eyes, putting on a perfect performance as a victim. Ryan, on the other hand, sat with a dark expression, looking like he'd just swallowed something disgusting. When he saw me standing in the crowd, his lips moved as if he wanted to speak, but with so many people around, he couldn't get the words out. This scandal was no trivial affair. Such behavior, engaging in improper relationships, could result in expulsion. Luckily for Ryan, we hadn't officially submitted our marriage report, so I wasn't considered his wife. Since I, the supposed victim, didn't make a fuss, the higher-ups decided to handle it discreetly. The resolution? Ryan would marry Emily, and the matter would be swept under the rug. On the day I was set to leave for college, Ryan showed up at the train station. Selena, I'm sorry, he said, his voice filled with regret. I never wanted to betray you. I already explained everything to her and planned to send her away. I even bought her train ticket for the next day. I didn't understand why things had turned out this way. Ryan Carter pounded his chest in regret, apologizing over and over. But his words didn't mean anything to me. I'm actually grateful you two ended up together. I said calmly. You and Emily gave me a way out. I should thank both of you. If it weren't for her pulling this stunt, it wouldn't have been so easy to cancel our engagement. After all, my parents thought very highly of you and would never have let go of such a perfect son-in-law. I smiled coldly. Because of your scandal with Emily, I became the biggest winner. I didn't have to go through the trouble of convincing my parents. And I even earned their sympathy. Ryan's face turned ashen. Selena, you're the only one I've ever loved. I truly only love you. Perhaps people always value what they can't have. Ryan kept repeating how much he loved me. He even admitted that he knew I hadn't submitted the marriage report and had planned to resubmit it himself. He claimed he genuinely wanted to spend his life with me. But I didn't want that kind of life. My previous life had been filled with hardship and exhaustion. If I were forced to relive it, then what was the point of being reborn? I'd rather die than repeat that miserable existence. Without giving him a response, I turned and walked straight into the waiting room, not looking back. College life was fulfilling and busy, a life completely different from the one I lived in my past. I immersed myself fully in my studies. Time flew by, and before I knew it, I graduated and was assigned to an excellent position in a government office. When I returned home to visit my parents, I unexpectedly ran into Ryan Carter and Emily Snow. Ryan hadn't climbed to the high-ranking position he achieved in my previous life. Instead, he had transitioned out of the military and returned to his hometown to farm. I'd heard their marriage wasn't going well. Emily was constantly causing trouble and throwing tantrums, leaving Ryan unable to focus on his work. Emily was extremely insecure, always suspecting Ryan of cheating whenever he interacted with another woman. Her relentless accusations and arguments eventually cost Ryan his job. In my past life, Ryan's career soared, and he never cared about his parents, me, or our children. But in this life, he stayed home because of Emily. He now spent his days doing endless farm work while dealing with her constant drama. He looked 10 years older than his actual age. We only exchanged a brief glance at the station. I turned away without hesitation and walked off. Later, my parents told me more about their situation. Ryan and Emily fought constantly. Major arguments every 3 days and minor ones every 2. Emily refused to work or care for Ryan's parents, even complaining about their illnesses and calling them dirty. When they argued, Emily often shouted, "This isn't how my life was supposed to be. It's all because of you and your uselessness." She accused Ryan of ruining her dream life, saying he was supposed to be a high-ranking officer while she lived in comfort. People laughed at her delusions, calling her dreams pure fantasy. Given their reality, such dreams were only possible in her imagination. I listened silently, and a thought occurred to me. Could Emily have been reborn too? Maybe she relied on her past life memories to scheme her way into marrying Ryan, convinced that she'd have a good life with him. That might explain why she tried to steal my acceptance letter, impersonate me, and manipulate Ryan. She must have thought I'd still be blindly in love with him, agreeing to anything he asked. But she never expected me to reject him, nor did she anticipate that Ryan would plan to send her away. That's why she staged her act of crying wolf. On the day I left town, Ryan blocked my way at the village entrance. "I had a dream, Selena," he said, his voice trembling. "In my past life, we were married. We had children together. And then," I asked coldly, staring at him, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." His voice cracked. "Emily stole your acceptance letter and used your identity to go to college. She blackmailed me into helping her forge the proof she needed. I lost my mind and agreed. Afterward, I couldn't get rid of her. She clung to me like a shadow. Every time I tried to say no, she'd threaten to report me. She held this over me for decades. Until you left." Ryan gripped his hair in frustration. "I don't know how it ended up like this. I don't know." I didn't let him finish. I turned and walked away without hesitation. The past was nothing more than dust in the wind. I had already let go of everything. Forgiving others was also a way of setting myself free. After all, people like Ryan Carter and Emily Snow weren't worth remembering forever.